Hello, I'm Julie Smith, Potter County Clerk, and you're listening to Texas County Voice, a podcast for all 254 counties. Thank you for listening.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Texas County Voice. I'm Jody Seaburden with the Texas Association of Counties. In this episode, we visit Lampasas County to bring you a conversation with County Judge Randy Hoyer. We discuss Judge Hoyer's journey from a 35-year career in public education to county government. Judge Hoyer also talks about Lampasas County's efforts to remedy the unintended cost of a well-intentioned property tax exemption, and he shares how Lampasas County is meeting the challenges of growth and development. So please stay with us as we showcase the stewardship and experiences that shape Texas counties. Welcome to the podcast, Judge Hoyer.
Jody, thank you. I'm excited about being here and visiting with you and sharing a little information about Lampasas County.
Well, you brought up an issue important to Lampasas County when we met a few weeks ago, and that issue prompted this episode. But first, let's let our listeners get to know you a little bit. How long have you been county judge?
Jody, I'm in my second term as county judge, so in my sixth year, and enjoying it a whole bunch, I have to say.
What'd you do before you were elected county judge?
I spent 35 years in public education. Started out as a teacher and a coach, then moved up to a campus principal. I was a junior high principal for 7 years and a high school principal for 5 years. And then I became a superintendent in two different school districts and did that for 12 years. And then I retired after 35 years.
Are you from Lampasas County?
No, I'm not. I was actually born and raised in a little community called Moulton down in near Lavaca County, or in Lavaca County. I came to Lampasas in 2009 as the school superintendent, and I spent 7 years as the school superintendent here, and then I retired. And kind of that leads me into this position that I'm currently in right now. When I retired, I was 57 years old, and I knew I was going to do something. And I've always had an interest in some small local politics, and decided to either I was going to run for county judge, and if I wasn't elected, I was thinking about going to teach over at Texas A&M Central Texas.
What did you teach?
I was a history teacher.
Were you mostly at rural schools, mid-sized schools?
Rural schools predominantly, always in a smaller school. I never did teach in a large urban setting.
So as a coach, you probably coached football, basketball, track, everything.
Absolutely. Basketball was my main sport, but in being in Texas, you're going to also coach football. And yes, so I coached everything from basketball, volleyball. I even coached the girls' side too. Volleyball, basketball, football, baseball, track. I didn't do tennis or golf.
Well, as a former educator, I doubt that there's much that surprises you. But what has been the biggest surprise, or maybe I'll say adjustment, since taking office?
You know, Jody, that's a great question. And ever since I became county judge, I've had a lot of people ask me, what's the biggest difference that you've seen from being a school superintendent and a county judge? And my response to that is there are a lot of similarities. They're both governmental entities. There are statute, laws, procurement requirements that you must follow, budgeting, setting a tax rate, a lot of similarities. So that was an easy transition from the school side moving over to the county government side. But the biggest difference that I have found, and it is somewhat of a blessing and nice, is in school business, everything is connected to emotion. Any issue, every topic, everything has emotion tied to it, whether it being the student, the parent, or the teacher. It's emotional. So any decisions, you have to always take into account the emotional side of it. Jumping over to county and county government, there's just no emotion involved in it. It's more black and white. People may get upset about issues. Maybe it's their county roads are not being maintained, or maybe they just don't like paying the taxes, But it doesn't have that emotional component like you do with a school and a child. And so sitting here now as a county judge, it is a much less stressful job than the superintendent. Again, as a superintendent, I would go home and lay down and sleep at night with knots in my stomach because of emotional issues, just worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't have those issues. I don't have those knots in my stomach as a county judge. At least I'm blessed here. Some county judges may, but I don't have those issues here, and so I'm blessed in that regard.
So the difference, just that emotional investment that parents have in their children and that you as an educator have in their children creates that stress.
It creates the challenge, and that it's the challenge, and I never saw that or never thought about it until I took this position, and I see the similarities, as I mentioned earlier regarding a lot of the operation, the legal, the statute, but it's not as stressful.
What accomplishment are you most proud of so far?
As a county judge, collaboration and teamwork it's not anything I can take personally and say that I've accomplished. But working with the stakeholders, commissioners court, a couple of things that I'm proud of is bridging the gap between county and municipality. As I've come to learn, a lot of times municipalities and counties will butt heads, and I've worked hard to bridge that gap, open communication and collaboration. So that's something that I'm proud of. Our county is growing. We're getting a lot of new growth, subdivision development, working with the Commissioners Court and the community and stakeholders, surveyors and developers, real estate, to revise our subdivision regulations and getting those up to speed. That's something important and proud of.
Well, that touches upon Lampasas' growth, which I'll come back to in a bit, but let's turn our attention now to a key issue for Lampasas County and the one that brought me back to this beautiful courthouse and to see you, and I'll let you explain.
Sure. That being the 100% disabled veterans exemption. In 2009, state of Texas passed a constitutional amendment granting 100% disabled veterans a 100% exemption on their ad valorem taxes for their homestead. A well-deserved and a great exemption for those veterans. We supported it then, we still support that exemption. What happened is an unintentional consequence that had an adverse effect on municipalities and counties, and that being as more and more disabled veterans started claiming that exemption, the revenue generated, tax revenue generated, began to decline. That rolled along for several years until 2015. And in 2015, the state legislature recognized there are some counties and municipalities that are significantly disproportionately impacted. So they passed Local Government Code 140.011, which granted a reimbursement for a percentage of that lost revenue to municipalities and counties that were either wholly located or adjacent to a United States military installation. Well, that was great for the cities of Killeen and Coppers Cove and Bell County and Coryell County, who are my neighbors. But Lampasas County is 1.7 miles from being adjacent, touching Fort Cavazos now. It used to be Fort Hood. Therefore, we're not eligible for that reimbursement. What does this exemption, how does it financially impact us? Well, our general operating budget is about $8 million. And it doesn't include road and bridge or interest and sinking, but just the general operating is about $8 million. Last year, because of that exemption, we lost over $1 million in revenue. And we have been working with our representative and our senator to amend Local Government Code 140.011 to remove that geographic requirement to be eligible for the reimbursement. Because as a mantra of ours has developed, disproportionate is disproportionate is disproportionate. It should not matter where you live. If you're disproportionately impacted, then you need to be reimbursed. The state needs to do this because this was not an exemption that Lampasas County created. This was a statewide exemption voted on and passed by all the proud Texans that live in Texas. Therefore, everybody in the state of Texas needs to ante up to help offset this.
So the remedy Lampasas County is seeking is to apply this reimbursement statewide?
Absolutely, yes. Any municipality or county that is disproportionately impacted by 2% or greater. We're probably well over 10% disproportionately impacted. There are a lot of disabled veterans living all throughout the state of Texas. Many of them reside where they retired from, Fort Cavazos, where there are a lot of VA hospitals, Temple. So we have a larger population. There may be other veterans living all over the state that are getting this exemption, but because it's not as many of them, that impact is not as great on that municipality or on that county.
Well, Lampasas County is a beautiful county. I'm from Taylor County. I'm from near Abilene, so I've driven through Lampasas County for years on my way home to visit family, and I've noticed the slow growth over the decades that I've been making that drive, but it seems recently that the growth here has really accelerated in the last 4 or 5 years. Is that my imagination, or is there some truth to that?
No, we are growing. A lot of growth coming from our east, Bell County, as a result of Fort Cavazos. The eastern part of our county is a very populated area. We're also seeing a lot of growth coming from Burnett County and Williamson County, Travis, Austin, especially as the tollway, the 183 tollway expands and continues further out. We've got a lot of folks that commute. So we have seen growth. Right now, we refer to it as manageable growth. You asked me earlier about some of the things that I'm proud of. Our revisions to our subdivision rules. Prior to me coming, our subdivision rules probably had not been looked at or revised in 10 or 15 years. And we now have those where it allows us to manage the growth a little bit better. Because we don't want to stifle or stop economic growth and development. We just want to manage it to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of our community.
Well, growth brings benefits and challenges. Do you want to touch upon either one of those or both?
Well, obviously, some of the benefit is just simply the tax base. It grows, but as the tax base grows and the growth, it requires more law enforcement protection, EMS service, and fire protection. It also has an impact on our county roads. Interestingly, our Commissioner's Court in our subdivision rules and regs, we have stated in there that we are no longer accepting any more roads. And our reasoning is we're struggling right now to keep up with the roads that we have, to maintain them appropriately. We don't want to take on any more roads. So if you're a developer and you are putting in a subdivision, the expectation is that your homeowner association will maintain that road. It'll be a private road and be maintained accordingly. Now, several years from now down the road, that can change, but that is our current stance on that right there. So going back to some of the benefits and the challenges, yes, we are generating more tax revenue, but law enforcement, EMS, those are very, very expensive. Volunteer fire departments, we try to support those, very expensive to maintain, and then just maintenance on roads.
Back to the property tax exemption for disabled veterans. This is an issue you've been working on, I think, since you became county judge.
Yes, that is correct. Shortly after, within the first budget year, when we were talking about the budget and it was brought to light, I really recognized that this is something that needs to change. And so, yes, I have really dedicated and focused a lot of attention. It's kind of interesting. This is a kind of a funny little story. My very first legislative session, I would make a trip down to Austin to the Capitol once a week to hand deliver letters to the members of the Senate Finance Committee, because they're the ones that were the stumbling block, so to speak. And it's kind of comical because going down there, I thought, I'm a county judge. I'm kind of a big deal. Well, reality set in. Believe it or not, all of my trips down there, I was never once able to ever meet with a senator on the Senate Finance Committee. I could get in their office, I could meet with a staffer, but I never could meet with them. The next legislative session, I was able to, with the support of the Commissioner's Court, we hired a lobbyist to be a voice down there for us, who knew the ins and outs and how to operate down there and to be able to make and have those meetings. And with her, we were able to get a bill passed in the House, overwhelming support, but it failed in the Senate. So now we no longer have that lobbyist. We have now gone with a second lobbyist that we feel is an outstanding person. And so we are preparing for the next legislative session. You know, we're kind of going on that old saying, third time is a charm. And so we're hoping that we can get something accomplished.
How important is it for counties to have a voice at the Capitol, and even when necessary to hire someone to help them amplify their voice?
You know, I know that that's a controversial topic in Texas, taking taxpayers' dollars for a paid lobbyist. Well, it's just a sad reality. That's how business is conducted in Austin. If you don't have a voice, if you don't have somebody who understands how the political wheels and machine works down there, I experienced that firsthand my very first year. I didn't understand. I didn't have those connections. I couldn't get in to see those people. You have got to have a voice. We are very appreciative to TAC and what TAC does. But aside from that, I believe, because here's our, when somebody says, well, you're spending taxpayers' dollars, yes, we are. We're spending taxpayers' dollars on this lobbyist. But if this lobbyist is successful and we get this change, Lampasas County is going to recoup 10 times more than what we're spending on the lobbyist in just 1 year, not looking forward in multiple years. So in my opinion, it is very important for you to at least have that opportunity. You don't have to, but to have that opportunity.
Well, whenever the topic of lobbying and lobbyists comes up, I feel the need to clarify that the Texas Association of Counties, we're an educational and informational resource. No, we do not lobby for legislation.
The counties rely on Jim Allison to do that for us.
Yeah, Jim Allison with the County Judges and Commissioners Association. Well, what are some other top priorities for you?
Well, water is a huge issue for rural, well, water is a huge issue for Texas, period. It is huge for us. We're went through a drought, a couple of 2-year drought. They're still not recovered. We're still way behind. Our reservoirs are down. And so water is a big thing. And one of the alarming issues that I have expressed to our state representative and our senator, as well as our United States Congressman, August Pfluger, Texas has not constructed or built any reservoirs in the last 50 years. Now, it's my understanding that there's one, possibly two, that are being built as we speak. But we have really gotten behind, and we fell behind on that because, again, it's my understanding that, a reservoir, to construct a significant one, is 50 to 75 years. When you talk about land acquisition and environmental studies and just the surveying and then the funding. And my concern is, we need to put a bigger emphasis on water. And that ties into subdivision development, groundwater availability studies, making sure that we can do those things. And so water is critical to Texas and huge to Lampasas County.
Well, what role does community engagement and collaboration play in effective government, and how do you go about encouraging participation?
We're boots on the ground in regard to what happens in Austin or what happens in Washington. I mean, the rubber meets the road at the local levels, whether it's municipality or in the county. And so communication, I think it's paramount for individuals to communicate with their state rep. A lot of times people's perception is, they're not going to listen to me, or I'm one vote. I don't want to have pie in the sky mentality, but I'm an optimist, and I believe that they do. And if you communicate with them on legitimate issues, they hear. And so I think that's very important. You mentioned the collaboration. I'm going to jump back to the importance of municipalities and counties to work together. Kind of one of my frustrations that I think everybody sees to a certain extent is the huge divide between Republicans and Democrats right now. Just the need for more bipartisanship, to reach across the aisle, to collaborate and to work. And we see it rural versus urban, and again, that collaboration and needing to reach across and to work for the common good. And so I think that's very, very important.
Well, what do you do when you're not here at the courthouse? Do you have any hobbies or?
Well, I'm blessed to have 2 grandkids that I get to see a lot. They live right here. In fact, I go pick them up every day, and I'm the one who takes them to school. And so my wife and I, we spend quite a bit of time with that. We love to travel. My wife and I, we like to RV, and I love to deer hunt. I'm a hunter and do that. And, just enjoying family and traveling and taking appreciation to the wonderful area that we live. That's kind of one of the things neat about Lampasas, and why when I retired after 35 years, we said we're staying here. The location of Lampasas in the state of Texas, you're a couple hours from the Metroplex, from the Riverwalk in San Antonio, from Austin. We're not too far from the coast. It's just, to me, geographic, it's a great location. We're rural, but in just a couple hours, you're in big urban population. So,
Well, Judge Hoyer, I appreciate your time. I thank you for joining the podcast.
Well, Jody, thank you for coming and spending a little bit of time in beautiful Lampasas County. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Texas County Voice. And a special thank you to Lampasas County Judge Randy Hoyer for joining the show. Please subscribe to Texas County Voice for more stories about Texas and for conversations with local leaders making a difference in Texas counties. In case you missed it, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, on April 11th, announced 57 interim charges for Senate committees to study ahead of next year's legislative session. An exploration of additional property tax relief is among the charges, though not specifically the exemption issue that concerns Lampasas County. But that doesn't mean much at this point. We have 9 months to go before things even get started, and what the legislature actually will do probably won't be known until next May or beyond. You'll find a link to the Lieutenant Governor's interim charges on the podcast webpage at county.org/Texas County Voice. And you can prepare for next year's session by joining us at our annual legislative conference from August 28th to August 30th. Visit our calendar of events page on county.org to register. Finally, April is National County Government Month. To learn more about Texas counties and Texas county officials, please visit texascountiesdeliver.org. We'll see you next time.